breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast, and we've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson. It's over at youtube.com/Rob Donaldson, doing an absolutely amazing job taking a look at this wonderful game of baseball. We're going to be talking about what has all stood out with him thus far this season. He's going to be talking about a few things that have really been catching his attention in terms of things, not necessarily from a betting perspective, but just in terms of what he's seen stylistically, in terms of plate approach, that have been very critical. Also, a little bit of a rebirth of the pitch to contact guys as well. And then we're going to be diving in on the games for Thursday in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on all 6 games that we do have for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GNet_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but we had ourselves a fun day of baseball on Wednesday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The San Francisco Giants continue to win, and Logan Webb's home starts 4-1. The Giants are able to get it done for the LA Dodgers. They gave Eliezer Hernandez a start. Gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a home run to Mr. Yastrzemski, Mike Yastrzemski, with his 4th home run season. From there, 2 innings out of the bullpen from Eduardo Salazar. That's a blast from the past. He gives up 1 unearned run over the course of his 2 innings, and Logan Webb just continues to be masterful. Did give up 3 walks early on, but settled down for 6 scoreless innings. From there, Sean Hegeley, along with Eric Miller, combined for a scoreless inning. Tyler Rogers does give up a run in an inning, but Camilo Doval, he's able to give you a scoreless inning as well. So the San Francisco Giants, well, when they trot out their Logan Webb on the road, it's been a little bit rough for them, but whenever he makes that start at home, he's been able to be very rock solid. The top over team in all of baseball is the Milwaukee Brewers, and they played yet another over on Wednesday, and we'll talk a little bit more about them on the podcast tomorrow. We'll get Ben Wilson aboard, who does great work here at VSiN, and for the Brewers, they get this one done by kind of 10-2 as Martin Perez. Boy, did he get shelled. He gives up 5 home runs in his 5 innings, 9 runs in total as going deep for the Brewer crew. Gary Sanchez, his 6th home run season. William Contreras, who's been one of the best hitters in all of baseball, his 6th home run season. Sal Frelick, his 2nd home run in 2 days. Jackson Chourio, his 5th home run season. Joey Ortiz, his 4th home run season. And Robert Gasser, he brought the gas, giving up 1 run over the course of 5 innings. Did allow 6 hits, but did wiggle his way out of it. Jared Koenig, he gives up a solo home run in his inning of work going deep for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Andrew McCutchen, his 5th home run season. Then you have Joe Payamps along with Mitchell White, both be able to come in there. They land a combined 3 scoreless innings between the 2 of them. And for Pittsburgh, Luis Ortiz gives up a run in 2 innings, and Ryder Ryan a scoreless inning. So Brewers at 26-17, they are leading the NL Central, but they did not gain any ground on the Chicago Cubs because they take down the Atlanta Braves by kind of 7-1. And the Braves, by the way, top under team in all baseball. 13 overs, 25 unders, and 2 pushes. So total of 8.5 goes under as Javier Assad. $1.49 ERA thus far this season, 6 scoreless innings. He has been really good since being brought up as a starter last season. Ben Brown gives up a run in 2 innings. Luke Little comes up big with a scoreless inning, and a pair of home runs for Chicago as C.A. Suzuki and Mike Tauchman both get home runs number 4 of the season. For Suzuki, he goes deep off of Jesse Chavez, allows 2 runs in 2 innings. Other home run comes off of Charlie Morton, who allows 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in his 3 innings. Ray Kerr in long relief gives up 1 run in 3 innings, and Jackson Stevens, he's able to supply a scoreless inning, but Braves do leave 9 men on base. You have to wonder when that offense is going to be able to pick it up, and where the Oakland A's, the offense probably is not going to pick it up all season long. Pitching has been fine, and they pitched well enough to win this game, but the Astros get it done by a count of 3-0. They are able to get another win in this series. I believe that is a sweep for them, as Aaron Brooks No, not the quarterback. Actually wasn't horrible. Gives up 3 runs over the course of 7 innings. Not quite as dominant as he was with the Kia Tigers way back in the day, but that said, you'll take that. You have from there Tyler Ferguson, TJ McFarland combined for a scoreless inning, but absolutely nothing doing. As for Houston, Framber Valdez was on point. 7 scoreless innings. Seth Martinez, 2 scoreless from there. So the Houston Astros are able to find a way to get it done, and Alex Bregman, another RBI in this one, so he's starting to heat up quite a bit, and the Yankees are quite hot. 4-0, they take down the Minnesota Twins as Marcus Stroman, 6 scoreless innings, did walk 3, but holds down the fort as Luke Weaver from there gives you 2 scoreless innings, Caleb Ferguson a scoreless inning, and Aaron Judge, he has been able to really find it here in recent days. Home run number 11 of the season, and for Aaron Judge, as now home run number 3 in his last 6 games, as he's able to crank that home run off of one Pablo Lopez, who gives up 10 hits, 3 runs over the course of 6 1/3 innings, including that bomb. From there, Josh Shamount, 8 scoreless inning, and Cody Funberg, 5 outs of the bullpen, does allow a run along the way, but nothing doing for the Minnesota Twins in terms of their offense. Not a lot doing for the Boston Red Sox either, who have been your second best under team in all baseball. 26 unders, 14 overs, and 3 pushes. They do fall to the Tampa Bay Rays by a count of 4-3, and for the Rays, they say hip hip hooray to their bullpen not blowing this game. Phil Maton does allow a home run in his inning of work, as Rafael Devers did take him for a ride his 5th home run season, and Weiler Abreu goes deep off of Taj. Don't call him Milton Bradley for his 4th home run season. For Bradley, gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, but Pete Fairbanks, Kevin Kelly, Sean Armstrong all lend a scoreless inning, and for Boston, Tanner Houck, not necessarily what he had in mind. He gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings, so there were a pair of plays out there in the field, including a Rafael Devers missed catch that needed to be made, so only one of them was earned. Greg Weiser, he gives up an unearned run in his 1/3 of an inning as well, before Cam Boozer gives you 2 scoreless innings, and Chase Anderson, he's able to lend a scoreless inning as well. The Mariners have been a good under team. They have played north of 64% of their games to the under, and they play another under on Wednesday, being able to get it done by a count of 4-2 as Alec Marsh gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned over the course of 5 innings, going deep for Seattle Ty France. No ties here, but a win. He's able to get home run number 4 of the season, and for Brian Wu, he says woohoo to giving up 1 run over the course of 5 1/3 innings. From there, Gabe Spire, Austin Voth, they combine for an inning, with Voth giving up a run along the way, but Ryan Stanek gives you a scoreless inning, and Andres Munoz, 5 outs out of the bullpen to be able to get the save scoreless, and for the Kansas City Royals, bullpen wasn't too bad here. Did have Ty Duffy give up a run in 2/3 of an inning, Nick Anderson a run in an inning, but Anil Zerpa gets it out of the bullpen scoreless, and Will Smith, he gets jiggy with it for a scoreless inning of his own. San Diego Padres get swept by the Colorado Rockies. That's not good, to say the least. 8-0 the final, and if you took the Colorado Rockies on the money line in this series, you made out like a bandit. As for the Colorado Rockies, they were finding themselves north of plus 180 underdogs in all 3 of these games, and for Colorado, they just had a really good pitching performance from Austin Gomber. Gombered up the Padres with 6 scoreless innings. Justin Lawrence, Pete Lambert, Nick Mears. From there, they're all able to give you a scoreless inning, and for the Padres, Michael King was in the outhouse. He was not the king. He gives up 6 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings, including a home run to Brenton Doyle, his 5th home run season. Then you get home run number 1 of the season from young Jordan Beck. Beck is able to get that home run off of Jeremiah Estrada, gives up a home run in 1 2/3 innings, and Johnny Brito, he comes in for 2 innings. He allows a run along the way as well. You did see the Walker Texas Rangers have a little bit of a triumph on Wednesday, 4-0 the final, after it was not so great for them on Tuesday. For the Guardians, Carlos Cookie Carrasco honestly didn't pitch the world's worst. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, does give up a home run to Marcus Semien, 8th home run season. Nick Sandlin does give up a home run to Adolis Garcia for his 10th home run season. For Sandlin, gives up 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Pedro Avalado, a scoreless inning. Peter Strzelecki, he was able to come in for 1 2/3 innings scoreless, but Guardians leave 8 men on base. They get absolutely nothing off of John Gray, and he was able to give 55 shades of John Gray and 55 shades of a scoreless outing in 6 1/3 innings. Was able to clerk from there, a pair of outs out of the bullpen before David Robertson and Kirby Yates, they close the door, both being able to lend a scoreless inning. Your second best over team in all of baseball is actually the Miami Marlins, but they shut out the Detroit Tigers by a count of 2-0, and for the Tigers, back-to-back shutouts, and the game on Tuesday went 10 innings. That's not great, to say the least, as Casey Mize does give up a home run to Brian De La Cruz, 9th home run of the season, but for Mize, relatively good outing here. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, including that homer. Will Vest, Bo Brisky, Tyler Holton from there, all end a scoreless inning, but the Tigers leave 10 men on base. They only went 0 of 3 with men in scoring position while stranding 10 men on base, by the way, as Trevor Rogers gives up 3 hits, no runs in his 5 innings of work. From there, Declan Cronin along with Andrew Nardi combined for 2 scoreless innings before Kelvin Fauché, Tanner Scott are both able to lend a scoreless inning of their own. For the Baltimore Orioles, they take down the Toronto Blue Jays this by a count of 3-2 as, again, the Blue Jays pitching not too bad here. You would have liked a little bit more length out of Yusei Kikuchi. Gives up a solo home run in 4+ innings of work as he does give that one up to Mr. Jordan Westbrook, 7th home run of the season. Then for Adley Rutschman, walk-off homer off of Jordan Romano, 9th home run of the season, and that has been an issue for the Blue Jays. They are up 2-1 going into the 9th inning. Romano does not get an out. He gives up both of those runs. You had Zach Pop be able to give you a 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Genesis Cabrera, Tim Meza both give you an out of the bullpen, and Yimi Garcia 1 2/3 inning scoreless, but not enough here. And for Baltimore, Kyle Bradish only lends 4 innings himself. He gives up 2 runs. There was a little bit of inclement weather that is going to be lingering in Baltimore all week long, but from there you have Mike Baumann, Cianel Perez combined for 2 scoreless innings. Danny Kalum, Jacob Webb are both able to lend a scoreless inning as well, and you saw the Washington Nationals get shut out as well. 2-0 the final. And by the way, in terms of the games that we did see on Wednesday, in all but 2 of these games, the losing team scored 3 runs or fewer. So, it was very much an under day out there in baseball. That said, for the Chicago White Sox, they were able to take to the Nationals on Patrick Corbin Day, who didn't pitch horribly. He gave up 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings. And again, if you bet on Patrick Corbin, every one of his starts since the beginning of the 2023 season, team is 20-23 when he's on the bump. If you've gotten plus 160 on the money line in every one of those starts, if you're $100 better, you're up $900. From there, Derek Law, Dylan Floro combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Robert Garcia gets it out of the bullpen. But for the Nationals, they go 0 of 9 with men in scoring position. Garrett Crochet was tremendous, goes 5 scoreless innings. From there, Jared Schuster, 2 scoreless innings. Jordan Leisure, Michael Kopech, they were both able to supply a scoreless inning as well. Cincinnati Reds are really stumbling in the NL Central. They are now last in that division and not getting it going on offense. 2-1, they fall to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Andrew Abbott, tough luck, no decision, gives up a solo home run over the course of 7 innings as Christian Walker takes him deep for his 8th home run of the season. Brandon Pfaadt, similar stat line, gives up a solo home run to Santiago Espinal, 2nd home run of the season. That's all you give up in 7 innings before Ryan Thompson, Paul Sewell both lend a scoreless inning. And for Cincinnati, Fernando Cruz comes in, gives up a run in his inning of work, and so the Diamondbacks are able to find a way to be able to get the job done. Our DK Network Ride-Up pick finds a way to be able to get the job done as well. It was Operation Fade Lance Lynn, and the operation was successful. 7-2, the LA Angels get it done. As for Lance Lynn, gives up 4 runs in 5 innings, and quite frankly, with the amount of men that he allowed on base, it could have been worse. He does give up a home run along the way before Nick Robertson gives up 3 runs in 1 2/3 innings, including a pair of home runs going deep for LA in this one. Taylor Ward with his first home run since dinosaurs roamed the earth, his 8th home run of the season. Zach Neto, Nolan Chanel both get home run number 4 of the season as well. And for Griffin Canning, he was pretty rock solid. He gives up a home run over the course of his 6 innings to Paul Goldschmidt, home run number 4 of the season. By the way, you're able to have Chris Roycroft for the St. Louis Cardinals give 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and for the LA Angels, you had Carlos Estevez, Matt Moore, both supply a scoreless inning. Luis Garcia, he gives up a run in his inning of work, but the Angels, they avoid the sweep and they get us a write-up winner. So we always do love to see that, and something else that you absolutely love to see is the way that the Philadelphia Phillies are playing. They are able to take down the New York Mets by a count of 10-5, as for the old Metropolitans, they've been able to do a nice job of being able to supply offense when they've been on the road, but they didn't get a lot of pitching in this one, as for one Mr. Joey Lucchesi, he gives up 5 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings, including home run going deep. Bryce Harper, home run number 10 of the campaign. From there, Grant Hardwick gives up 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings, and Adrian Hauser pitched a little bit more like Doogie. He gives up 3 runs in 2 innings, so only one of them was earned, hurt by a pair of errors out there in the field, and JD Martinez was able to go deep off of Spencer Turnbull, 2nd home run season, as Ranger Suarez not as sharp in this one. He does allow 2 runs in 5 innings, but those were both unearned runs, and it wasn't due to his own error. Sir Anthony Dominguez, a scoreless inning, and Spencer Turnbull, 3 runs surrendered in 3 innings, including that home run, but the Phillies, they do find a way to get it done, and right now they lead the NL East, so it has been a very nice season for them, and it has been a nice season in general in baseball if you've been taking a look at unders. I was alluding to it a little bit earlier on. You've been seeing a lot of teams just not putting up a lot of runs, and if you just take a look at the last 30 days and the last 30 days only, the under is sitting at 55.2%, 211 unders to 171 overs, and the time span favorites sitting at 58.8% on the money line, 234 and 164. If you take a look at what we just got on Wednesday, Favorites went just 8-7 on the money line, and unders 11-4, so very much a day for the unders. And overall for the season, favorites sitting at right around about 58.5%, 377 and 268. And if you're looking at the totals for the season, unders sitting at 52.9%, 330 unders to 294 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got in baseball on Wednesday. Now let's turn the page forward to Thursday with our good friend Rob Donaldson. He does great work over at youtube.com/Rob Donaldson. He joins me next on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast. For those of you guys that love VSiN and you want to get a little bit more VSiN in your life, do take advantage of this offer. It's exclusive to this podcast because I love you. They made a promo code for me. Greg, G-R-E-G. With this promo code, typically here at VSiN, we offer 12 months of exclusive access for $240. So that's $20 a month. With this promo code, not only do you save $41, but you're also going to get 2 months for free. So this is everything that we do. This is our exclusive betting splits showing you where the money and the bets are moving on every single game. That on top of that, you're going to be able to get all the access to all of our written articles, all of our betting guides, because I do everything that I can on the baseball front and the college basketball front for those that love this podcast, but I'm one man. I can't handicap everything. So get some help from the likes of Matt Humans, Wes Reynolds, all of our fine writers, all of our fine folks that put together these betting guides, Steve Mackinnon and all of his tremendous systems. They're able to get you informed on every single betting market on the face of planet Earth, whether you're taking a look at the basics like baseball and college basketball, and that gives you more access to all of my work as well. But on top of that, that gives you everything that we do, including 19 hours of exclusive live programming every single day. This includes some live betting angles. I have been giving those out on the Greg Peterson Experience for those that have been listening on those as well. So you want to be tuned in there, and we are giving you this just by typing in the promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G, over at VSiN.com/subscribe. That is VSIN.com/subscribe. Rather than paying $240 for 12 months, you get 14 months for $199. That's less than 50 cents a day for everything that we do. That is VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code GREG.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always great to be joined by this man, as Rob Donaldson. He does an absolutely tremendous job over at his YouTube feed, youtube.com/Rob Donaldson, with the show, The Rob's Best Bets Show. Taking a look at this great game of baseball. I know that he is hyped up for some college and NFL football as well, sooner rather than later. We'll be back in full action there. On top of that, I know that he's doing an amazing job taking a look at all things college basketball as well. To be able to follow him on Twitter/X, that's at RobDFB altogether. And Rob, it is always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. It's certainly been an interesting baseball season where we're kind of having to redirect our focus and relearn things about certain guys and certain teams. And it's honestly, that makes it a little bit of a fun process, but also a bit of a challenging process. And so, yeah, I always love hopping on and talk ball with you.
Absolutely, and it has been a first. Now, 7 weeks of the baseball season. We are getting very close to that 2-month mark. And what about a few of the things that have been really standing out to you thus far? Because I do feel like in terms of this baseball season, it's been very topsy-turvy and fun, to say the least.
Absolutely. And I think one of the big things that we're finally starting to see is the totality of, pitchers going up through the system and really focusing on their strikeout stuff and their movement pitches. And even if they are getting hit hard and they might not be the precise pitchers of the past, they're finding a lot of benefit in finding those 2-out strikeouts with runners in scoring position, or 1-out strikeouts with runners in scoring position even. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of guys not really barreling up the ball like we used to see in past years as well. So a little bit of a mixture, I think, of, high strikeout numbers, pitchers that have really focused on their stuff and their movements, and Rapsodo and all these machines that we have nowadays to kind of focus on that side. And then also just a little bit of a hyper focus on launch angle from the batter's perspective. I think it's finally coming back to bite some of these hitters too. So it's definitely been a really interesting season to watch play out.
Yeah, it has been very interesting, as home run numbers across the board have been very much down this year. That's something that I've certainly been taking a liking to. And how have you been adjusting for this? Because I do think that has put a little bit more emphasis on these pitch to contact guys, because typically when you take a look at pitchers, you're saying that like, oh, he's getting 11, 12 strikeouts per 9 innings. And while that's all well and good, I would much rather have a guy that has a fielding independent of like a 3, is just not giving up a lot of runs in general, rather than that guy that's getting like 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's giving up 5 runs, because if you give up 1 run and get 0 strikeouts, that's a lot better than getting 12 strikeouts and giving up 5.
Absolutely, yeah, and there's definitely a balance. And what a lot of lineups are starting to kind of figure out is, hey, let's just have a level swing path. If this guy is going to challenge us with even the craziest of stuff, let's try to put it in play, or at least get him rattled to a point where maybe he's just missing the zone. I mean, we just watched, I don't know if you saw the Pirates-Cubs game with Paul Skeens' debut the other night, but in the 5th inning there for the Pirates, they walked 7 consecutive batters and gave up 7 runs in the top of the 5th inning. And that just kind of speaks to, sometimes these guys are just up there chucking and they don't really have any idea where the ball's going. And that's why I think walks and hit by pitches and just those little minor in-between-the-line details have kind of been costing some teams this season.
Yep, I have been very much taking a look at that, and it has been so intriguing. These teams with high walk rates are ones that you want to be taking a look at as well, and certainly that's based on the pitcher, because a guy like George Kirby, he's not going to be giving up the same amount of walks as someone like Adil Aziz, for example. That's just the way that it is. But how much you take a look at these lineups, that they have been very patient, because one thing that I always note with the Dodgers is, though they've got that Death Star lineup with like Tasker Hernandez, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, busting out all those deep balls, they're also very disciplined at the plate, which is why they oftentimes have so much success.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of crucial, because you're forcing the pitcher to make pitches, and you're also kind of working counts and when you are patient and picking your spots, as opposed to some of these hyper aggressive teams that are just out there hacking. I mean, when you're looking at batting average on balls in play, I think that's a very telling stat, because there's a lot of underlying things that feed into those numbers. And when you're looking at the bottom of the league right now, you're seeing Miami, you're seeing Chicago White Sox, you're seeing a team like, Toronto, who's had a lot of struggles in the early goings. And so when you're looking at those numbers and looking at all the underlying numbers for these teams from the hitting perspective, I think you're going to find a lot of teams that really just don't pay attention to detail and are playing a lot of individual ball. And those are also, kind of coincidentally or not, the teams that are also probably the worst in baseball as well.
Yep, absolutely. We have been noticing these teams that they don't draw a lot of walks. These teams that they don't go deep into pitch counts. Typically, they just have not been able to bust through. Like, for example, the Seattle Mariners, a team that has been striking out more than 10.5 times per game. That has been something that has been very striking to me. They've made do with it with how amazing their pitching staff has been. But I think that that's a team of intrigue to take a look at moving forward, because they have both been very good on the pitching side of things, and they've been striking out like crazy this year.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things in the early goings that we've seen with like Seattle and Colorado is in their elements, especially at T-Mobile Ballpark for Seattle, it's definitely a pitcher's ballpark. And there's definitely a weather factor there coming right off the ocean. And in the early goings, there was a lot of frigid nights that they were playing in as well. And also talking from the hitting perspective, they need just to get really Julio Rodriguez going and just kind of get that lineup in general going. I think that they have the star power to do it, and I think they have the actual talent to do it. And once that offensive side actually picks up, that is going to be one of the most dangerous teams in baseball. And it's just going to really come down to whether or not, at the deadline, they can make some additions to really bolster that lineup in total.
Absolutely. And I do think that they're going to be one of those fascinating teams moving forward as that AL West. Just in general, nobody has been able to break away and run and hide with the division. As joining me on the show, we do have Rob Donaldson. He does great work over at youtube.com/Rob Donaldson, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And when it comes to that AL West, we've got 2 teams that are going to be in action from that. That'd be the Astros and the Oakland A's. And Christian Javier is going to be getting the start for Houston against Joey Estes. And right now with Oakland, they find themselves at a plus 185 and a total of 8.5. How do you take a look at this matchup? Because with Oakland, they've actually been really good on the pitching side of things thus far this season. And the offense, as we know, it has been leaving a lot to be desired. They've hit the deep ball, but they have not done anything else because they've been hitting a bunch of solo shots. And as you know, for the Astros, it's been a year of Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. How do you take a look at both this game and these two teams moving forward.
One of the things that's kind of unique about Oakland is, they are bringing in a lot of young players. They're also kind of getting the scraps in terms of just the entire league and throwing them in their starting lineup. And they've been making do with it as it stands so far. At the same time, I do think that the Coliseum that they play in as well also kind of hinders their offensive numbers too. Looking at this game in particular against the Astros, who have had their own offensive struggles, have had their pitching struggles, it's certainly an interesting matchup, and it's certainly an interesting line when you're looking at a guy like Christian Javier, who's absolutely been struggling in the hard hit ball department all season long, and he's a minus 210, minus 200 north of that favorite in a game where the Oakland Athletics actually have the better record. So just from that standpoint, I feel like has to be a little bit of value on betting on the A's here. And just in total for this game, when you're looking at S and Javier, I think through the first 5 innings, we're going to actually see quite a few runs fly off the board in a hitting-friendly ballpark. So that's kind of my angle when I'm looking at that ball game.
Yep, and the A's have actually had the far better bullpen thus far this season, though. I do take a look at Josh Hader and Ryan Presley, and I do think that there's going to be a little bit of positivity for them. I'm not sure how you view this Astros team, but when you dive into the advanced numbers, it does show that they've been a little bit unlucky this year, and I just think that the biggest fear for myself is with the Astros, even though I do think that they're going to improve as the season goes along, I fear that perhaps they may have dug themselves just a little bit too much of a hole to make the playoffs, though as we know, this has been an AL West where nobody's really been overly impressive.
I think that's kind of what's playing to the absolute benefit of the Astros right now is that nobody's really been figuring out this division. I mean, the Rangers just got swept by the Rockies, the A's are the A's, and I think the Astros have enough talent in their lineup in particular to actually get this thing figured out and score enough runs to, supplement a subpar rotation. Now you're adding Ronel Blanco, who's going to miss a couple games here as well. And Framber Valdez is a guy who had a shaky end to the last season. And we'll see kind of how this season plays out for him coming off of that great campaign last season in the regular season. Justin Verlander, an aging star. Christian Javier has been getting tagged. Hunter Brown is one of those guys who, he might not even be a starter, 2 weeks from now. So it's just a crazy kind of up in the air rotation. And I think that's going to play to the detriment of the Astros. And it's finally caught up to them, just kind of relying on their in-program or in-franchise talent that they've grown up. It's just not there right now.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where they go moving forward because it is still a winnable division, but they are going to need to get a lot from Christian Javier in these next few starts, someone who he himself just came off the injured list, as Rob Donaldson, who does great work with Rob's Best Bet Show, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And then I think the most interesting matchup of the day is going to be this Rays versus Red Sox game as they're fighting out there in the AL East. This is a relative pick'em game with both teams right around about a minus 105 to a minus 110 and a total of 8.5 with Zach Little going up against Cooper Kurzweil. Want to get your thoughts here because the Red Sox have been, to me, one of the more surprising teams in all of baseball in that I just was not expecting the pitching to be quite as good as it has been. Meanwhile, for the Rays, they enter into Wednesday 27th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, and I think that could be their undoing in this last game of this 4-game series.
Yeah, absolutely. And you spoke to it, but the Red Sox pitching talent this season, or this performance in general, I guess, has been absolutely spectacular. You couldn't drop a better start if you were a Red Sox fan coming into the season, a little bit skeptical on how your rotation would perform, and all of a sudden they're the best in Major League Baseball. So that's definitely a nice little start to the season. Whether that keeps up, I think that's up in the air. But with Cooper Kurzweil, I do expect a little bit of negative regression for him just because the last 2 times out, he's been getting tagged and he hasn't been going deep in ball games, but he hasn't really been paying for the hard hits that he's giving up ultimately. And when you are looking at the Rays and Zach Little, Zach Little right now is having the season that a lot of Giants fans, were kind of looking back at his tenure with that ball club, they were very optimistic about him in a starting role and being an actual guy that can hold down the 3 or 4 spot. Well, Zach Little's been pitching like a 2 or 3 so far in the early going, and there's really no underlying numbers on the surface right now to kind of say, hey, that's going to fall off. So in this matchup, I love kind of sharpening it down to the first 5 innings and fading Cooper Kurzweil and taking Zach Little and really just kind of taking the run line with the Rays through the first 5.
Yep, with the Tampa Bay Rays, they've been able to get some great pitching out of Zach Little, and I could very much see a situation because Kurzweil actually was a part of the Rays organization coming up where both of these guys go out there 5-6 innings, they both give up like 1 to 2 runs, and then it becomes based on the bullpens, and then I think from there you see a nice advantage with the Boston Red Sox. So that is going to be fascinating to look at it, man. I know that Randy Rosarena has been hitting a few home runs, but that guy needs to start hitting above $160. That has been not great, to say the least. But what has been rock solid has been taking a look at the New York Yankees and the Minnesota Twins. These have been two of the top teams in the American League thus far, and Joe Ryan is a very slight favorite at about -115, -120 against Clark Schmidt and the Yankees at a total of 8. Want to get your thoughts, because with Clark Schmidt, he really threw a nice gem last time out, but he's been, like, for me, Captain Steady Eddie, where you know that he's going to give you about 5 to 6 innings. He's going to give up somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 runs. Typically, it's not demonstratively good, but you know that he's not going to fail out on you as well against a Twins lineup that was so rocky to begin the season, but when they got those games against the White Sox, they were able to get right back online.
Absolutely. Clark Schmidt, the way I refer to him, is pretty much in line with what you just outlined. Is he's just the better version of Patrick Corbin. You know, every single time he takes the bump, he is going to give the Yankees a shot to win the game, and really that's all you want out of a guy who's kind of fitting in on the back end of your rotation. And with Joe Ryan, you know, he's a very fine pitcher, and I'll kind of leave it at that, and I won't go above it, because he's a guy that I think can expect a lot of turbulence from start to start, because he does challenge a lot of hitters. He doesn't have overwhelming strikeout power or strikeout stuff, and he does give up a lot of hard hit balls, but he does have some flashes of brilliance because he does have a good enough arsenal that, you know, when he is challenging hitters, a lot of guys are just kind of swinging and missing at the velocity and some of the movement and some of the kind of pitches that he has in correlation with one another. But at the same time, when you're looking at this Yankees lineup, I do think it's tailored to hit off of a guy like Joe Ryan. And, you know, kind of going back to what we just talked about with Clark Schmidt, I think that he's going to have them in this ball game no matter how deep he goes into it. So when you are looking at this game, I like the Yankees on the money line, and I also just kind of like fading Joe Ryan and maybe just the hits department on the over.
Yep, with Joe Ryan, he has been giving up quite a bit of contact, and what I will always say is that he's done a much better job keeping the ball in the yard when he's been at home rather than away from home, as Minnesota a little bit more of a pitcher's ballpark. So that's going to be something to take a look at. And Rob, we've got a few games in the NL side of things as well, with a lot of numbers currently off the board with Pirates versus Cubs, since it's a Wrigley Field game. We just have no idea what that total is. The Reds and the Dodgers both have yet to determine their starters, so that makes it a little bit of a tough handicap there. But anything else that you're going to be taking a look at for Thursday?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I think is going to be a constant theme until the books kind of make an adjustment is just kind of fading against Justin Steele, because there's this notion out there right now that Justin Steele is one of the aces in the entire league and that he's, you know, an elite talent. And I think eventually he could find that, potentially, just because of his stuff and what we've already seen him accomplish in the league. That said, he has been a guy that's been struggling with hard hit percentages dating back all the way to last season, and he paid for it last time out against this Pirates lineup. Man, if the Pirates are opening up anywhere near even money or even plus money, I'd be all over that first 5 money line, and I would even reverse run line it with them as well. Jared Jones has been pretty phenomenal, and again, I just kind of like the angle on fading Justin Steele right now.
Yep, right now seeing only one number out there, that is at DraftKings. That's a plus 120 on the Pittsburgh Pirates. I do think that you're going to be able to get that plus money on the Pittsburgh Pirates, and it's always plus money to be able to get you aboard, Rob, as you do such a great job taking a look at this game that we all know and love. Love the good people at home. Know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
As always, Greg, I really appreciate you having me on. I always love talking ball with you. And for those who are wanting to follow me in my picks every single day, you can do so on Twitter or X at RobDFB. And you can also do so on YouTube, just my name, Rob Donaldson. And as always, Greg, really appreciate you having me on.
It is always great to be able to get Rob aboard. He does such a good job taking a look at this game of baseball, and every single time he joins the show, lends such good insight. So big thanks to him for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday, as we catch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Rob Donaldson. He does great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bet Show. Every single time he joins me, he lends such good insights and did so once again today. So big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at June_D1. The way their rotation order works is we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. If we were to have interleague games, those would be at the bottom. We do not have any interleague games. A little bit of a smaller card with 6 games, but we got 6 fun ones. So let's dive in on this first game of 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board. The New York Mets are on the road facing up against the Philadelphia Phillies as Taijuan Walker goes for the Phils. Jose Quintana is on the bump for the Mets, and the Mets do find themselves as an underdog, anywhere between +122 to a +132. Meanwhile, between -143 to -148, that number on the Phillies, 8.5 is the total. Unders between -110 to a -115. The overs between -105 to a -110. Want to go up to a -145 on the Phillies. Don't want to chance it on the run line as the Phillies bullpen, it's starting to look a little bit better, and we always notice that with the Phillies, they struggle a little bit with their bullpen towards the beginning part of the season, then they pick it up towards the back half of the season. That said, with Taijuan Walker, do have a little bit of trepidation with him as well. With Taijuan Walker, I feel like he is by far the weak link in terms of Philadelphia Phillies starting rotation, and personally, I'd be throwing Spencer Turnbull as a starter myself. I recognize that the injury concerns are there, but for Taijuan Walker, he's posting up a fielding independent of a 5.20, 42 ERA. Has never been a great strikeout pitcher, but he has been giving up the deep ball quite a bit this season, and when he's really rolling, he's able to keep the ball in the yard. Thus far this season, it's a small sample size of 18 and 2/3 innings, but has given up 4 home runs, and he goes up against a Mets lineup that entered into yesterday number 1 in the big leagues with regards to runs per game on the road. They have been absolutely awful at home at being able to generate runs, but they've been great on the road. I have to wonder if they got cooled down a little bit by what we saw yesterday, but if you have Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, really not in for a lot of average. Alonso is hitting about a 225. Lindor is hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200, but Alonso's been able to give you 9 home runs this far this season. Lindor has been able to give you a nice slugging percentage, has been able to do a good job moving the line, and I don't know why they haven't given Mark Vientos more playing time, but he's been able to drive in a few runs for this bunch. You've got the likes of Starling Marte, Tyrone Taylor, Harrison Bader, only above a 255 for this team, but the catcher spot has been miserable. Brandon Nimmo hasn't necessarily given you a whole lot, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, this has been a top flight offense all season long, in the top 6 in the big leagues with regards to runs per game. Nick Castellanos has had a rough start to the season, but he's starting to pick it up a little bit. You've got Bryce Harper now with a 390 on base and 10 home runs. Kyle Schwarber, he's giving you about a 333 on base, and you just look up and down the boulevard for this Philadelphia Phillies team. Yohan Rojas is clearly out there for his glove, but past he and Nick Castellanos, pretty much everyone has been very solid at being able to get on base, move the line. Bryson Stott now hitting at 275, and Alec Boehm north of a 400 on base, and for the New York Mets, it's going to be a little bit of a rough ordeal for Jose Quintana, who was very good at being able to keep the ball in the yard 8 seasons ago, but we know that he's not a guy that is necessarily going to do the world's greatest job of getting a bunch of strikeouts or anything like that, and the command has just been off this year. He's been giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings. It's hard to be a 6 strikeout per 9 inning guy when you're also giving up 4 walks per 9. Now, the fielding independence more around a 497, that in comparison to the 544 ERA. That said, you could tell that Quintana was a little bit more comfortable when he was out there at Citi Field at Pitcher's Ballpark than he was on the road last season. Now, for the Mets, working for them has been a bullpen that entered into the series in the top 8 in the big leagues with regards to ERA, but we did see Edwin Diaz blow a save a few days ago. I do think that there might be a little bit of inevitable regression for the likes of Reed Garrett, Sean Reed Foley, and company. Dubs, I do think that they're still relatively solid, even with Brooks Raley being out of the fold. That said, I do think that the Phillies are going to be able to get to Quintana. I do think that Taijuan Walker gives up a few runs as well, but I also do think that there's going to be a little bit of negative regression for the Mets on the road with regards to hitting. That said, still did set my total at 8.8. I do like the over, and with the Phillies, want to lay up to a -145 on this money line. 953, 954 on the betting board. The Chicago Cubs are going to be playing us to the Pittsburgh Pirates as Jared Jones goes for the Buccos, and the Man of Steel, Justin Steele, is on the bump for the Cubs. There is no numbers up in terms of a total, as this is a Wrigley Field game that is going to be based on the wind and is going to be up in the AM. But with that said, we do know that we've got a few money lines set, where the Cubs are between -135 to -142 favorites. +120 to +125 is that number on Pittsburgh. As of right now, we do not have any run line prices, and it looks like the wind is going to be blowing out, but it's going to be blowing out at about like 8 or so miles per hour in this one. It's not going to be anything like over the top and super duper demonstrative, but it is going to be blowing a little bit out, which is why I set my total to wear a 9 or less I'm going to be looking at the over 9.5 or higher to the under, and I'm going to be willing to back Justin Steele here. I did set the Cubs at a minus 159 on the money line for Justin Steele. It's been a case where he's been able to do a very nice job of being able to locate, being able to command over the last few seasons, and he gets to go up against a Pittsburgh Pirates team that found a little bit more offense against the Milwaukee Brewers, and over the last 7 days, it's been a touch better for them. That said, I very much still do have my question marks with this Pittsburgh Pirates lineup. You've had Oneil Cruz do a nice job, be able to generate 7+ home runs as far this season, but that said, you've got a lot of guys that have been touch and go. Connor Joe has made things go with about a 360 on base. He's hitting for about a 285. You expect a little bit more moving forward out of Brian Reynolds as well. Reynolds has been able to give you about a 250 with a 342 on base, but just not a lot of power outside of Cruz, Reynolds, and Joe. You've only got one other guy that's giving you north of 4 home runs, and Andrew McCutcheon as he, Rowdy Tellez, Michael A. Taylor, Jack Swiniski, Henry Davis, who has been up and down at the minor league level, hitting a 220 or lower. That's just a little bit less than tremendous, and I was expecting a bit more out of this bullpen as well. For the Pirates, Aroldis Chapman, David Bednar, they have been rough thus far this season. Both of these guys supplying an ERA that is north of 4 for the Pittsburgh Pirates overall. Their bullpen ERA right around about league average, just slightly below average. I think that they have dropped down outside the top 20 as of right now, despite the fact that you've been able to have Cullen Holderman give you some good innings. They get Carmen Boldazinski back in the fold, which should be able to help things out, but been very touch and go with them. For the Chicago Cubs, it's been a rough bullpen as well, 24th in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA, though I do think that there should be a little bit of positivity. Julian Merriweather being out of the fold has hurt this team, but Mark Leiter Jr. is giving you a sub-1 ERA. You need to get Luke Little online, that 70 ERA that is relatively rough, but Aviad Assad giving them a good start yesterday. That should be able to help this team out. And for Justin Steele, coming off the injured list, hasn't necessarily looked the world's sharpest as of right now. He's only been able to go a combined 8 2/3 innings in his 2 starts back. Got shelled by the Pirates last time around. I do expect him to be much better in this start as he puts it up in ERA that was about a full point better at home rather than on the road. A season going for Jared Jones. He has been a strikeout artist. He has been able to generate north of 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, posting up a 268 ERA. Fielding dependence a little bit higher as he's been giving up about a home run and a half per 9 innings. So with the wind blowing out, I do think that that's going to be a disadvantage against a Cubs lineup that still is dealing with the injury to Dansby Swanson. That said, you've got guys like Cody Bellinger along with C.A. Suzuki returning to the fold, and ever since Bellinger has come off the injured list, he has been very rock solid for this bunch. You've been able to have Mike Tauchman give you a 391 on base. Nico Horner's hitting about a 270 for this team, even though Michael Busch has fallen back to earth in terms of his power numbers after he had a few weeks ago a streak where he had 5 home runs in 5 games. He's still been able to give you about a 320 on base, still doing a solid job being able to move the line. So I do think that with the Cubs, you've got some relatively solid value. When it's all said and done, I think that I should be able to get a good run line price. I'd be willing to take a plus 120 or higher with regards to the run line. I think we should be able to get there. So when it's all said and done, going to be looking at the Cubs on the run line, and like I said, with regards to total 9 or less, I'd like the over 9.5 or higher. Going to be looking at the under 955, 956 on the betting board. It is the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we are on to Cincinnati, and they're onto the road to face off against the LA Dodgers. It is old to be determined on the bump for the Dodgers, and it's old to be determined on the bump for Cincinnati. So this game is completely off the board. When I was looking before, they were lining up Tyler Glasnow against Nick Lodolo, and if you were to get this matchup, I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 110 on the Dodgers on the run line, set them at a minus 208 on the money line, so I need at least a plus 209 to take a shot on the Reds. 8 or less, I'd be looking at the over 8.5 or higher to the under. Right now, it's looking like Nick Lodolo might not be making this start for the Cincinnati Reds, and well, if you get someone like a Nick Martinez out there, that's probably a 40-cent differential, so that's not great to say the least. You're probably going to be staring at the Dodgers being more like a minus 125 to a minus 130 on the run line. If you get something like a Nick Martinez, if you get some young gun that we've never heard of making a start, a bullpen game, something like that. As for the Cincinnati Reds, just been really rough in terms of the lineup. They're actually averaging more runs per game when they're on the road rather than when they have been at home, but it's been Elly De La Cruz and not a whole heck of a lot else. He and Spencer Steer both give you about a 355 to a 360 on base. De La Cruz, 9 home runs thus far this season. Nobody else on the roster is giving you more than 5, as Will Benson has been that guy, but for Will Benson, the now on the injured list Christian Encarnacion Strand, Nick Martini, Santiago Espinal, Stuart Fairchild, they're all hitting a 200 or lower for the team. Jonathan India is giving you about a 340 on base, but he's not hitting for a lot of average, has supplied just 2 home runs thus far this season. The Reds have been really rough in terms of their lineup. You were thinking that when Nick Lodolo was supposed to get the start, all right, they've got themselves a little bit of a puncher's chance here, but if you're getting someone like a Nick Martinez, he's a pitcher contact guy that's only going to be able to fill a few innings, and it's not as if he's been backed up by a bullpen that has been amazing, especially with Sam Mole being in and out of the fold. Should be good to go in this one for Mr. Mole, so that helps him out a little bit. But that said, this is a Cincinnati Reds bullpen that has been hovering right around about 18th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Brent Suter is able to give you a few innings. He used to be a starter, but not a place where you want to be. And for the LA Dodgers, this has been a pretty solid bullpen there, looking to really revitalize the career of JP Feyereisen. After a few seasons ago, he was very good with the Tampa Bay Rays. You had to use up a bullpen game yesterday, and you've got to expect that if Tyler Glasnow does indeed make the start, which I'm fully expecting him to do so, he's going to be able to fill those innings for Glasnow. He's went 6+ innings in each of his last 4 starts, has been very dominant all season long. He's getting north of 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, has given up fewer than 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. You just take a look up and down the boulevard, and he has been great, and so has this LA Dodgers lineup. With the Dodgers, I mean, this has become the Death Star of baseball. Shohei Ohtani right now is the best hitter on the face of planet Earth, hitting a 360 with 12 home runs. Entering into yesterday, you've got 9 home runs out of Teoscar Hernandez, 9 home runs out of Max Muncy. Mookie Betts is giving you north of a 425 on base. Freddie Freeman is hitting about a 295. Will Smith is getting jiggy with it. Really, other than James Outman along Gavin Lux at the bottom of the fold, hitting right around 200, all these guys have been very formidable. So if you do get like some sort of a bullpen game against Tyler Glasnow, I'd be willing to set the Dodgers even closer to a -130 laying a run and a half. I would probably need about a +245 to a +250 to take a shot on the Reds, depending upon the situation. If you do get Nick Lodolo, I'd be willing to take more like a +208 on the Reds. I'd be setting that Dodgers run line more around a -110. And right now, in terms of the total, whether it is Lodolo or a bullpen game, leaning towards an 8 or less to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. Might be willing to go to an 8.5 or less to the over if you've got a rough bullpen ordeal with the Cincinnati Reds. A little bit TBD there. 957, 958 on the betting board. The New York Yankees hit the road to face off against the Minnesota Twins. Joe Ryan is on the bump for the Twins, and Clark Schmidt is on the bump for the Yankees. And the Yankees are slight underdogs. They're anywhere between +102 to a +108. Meanwhile, between -115 to -122 is that number on Minnesota. 8 is the total. Over is between -105 to a -115, and the same goes for the under, and is at the Twins at a -112. Right now, we're finding one straight -112 out there, and I do expect a little bit of money to come in on the Yankees, so if we can get that -112 price, I'm willing to take a shot on the Twins on the money line. For Joe Ryan, he's always had a little bit of a problem giving up the deep ball, but much of that has been on the road. When he's been at home, he's just been a little bit of a different pitcher throughout his career, and Joe Ryan has really reduced on the deep ball thus far this season, giving up about 1.15 home runs per 9 innings, so it's been pretty stable there, and unlike throughout much of his career, has actually been much more rough at home rather than on the road this season. 463 home ERA, .85 ERA on the road. It's still a little bit early, but strikeout numbers have certainly been there. He's been able to get about 10 punch-outs per 9 innings, and really it's not walking a soul. About 1.2 walks per 9 innings. Going up against Clark Schmidt, just a very steady Eddie guy. You know what you're going to be able to get out of Clark Schmidt. He, in his last, I believe now, 34 starts, has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all but 3 of them. He's given up a whole bunch of 3s, but he doesn't give up really more than 3, and on the road this season, he's been very good. In his 4 road starts, he's given up 6 runs, 5 of which have been earned. For Clark Schmidt, he's up to 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been rock solid, and he's backed up by a Yankees bullpen that's in the top 3 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've been able to have Ron Marinaccio, along with Ian Hamilton, mainstays from last season, once again be able to duplicate the success that they did have a season ago. Luke Weaver, I'm waiting for the bottom to fall out on him, but he's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Victor Gonzalez has been rock solid out of that bullpen. Caleb Ferguson, a little bit of a disaster coming over from the Dodgers, but really past that, all of these guys have been very good, including Clay Holmes, who has yet to give up an earned run out of that bullpen. And for the Minnesota Twins, they have been able to really heat up with the bat. It's been incredible what we've seen out of Ryan Jeffers, who's been able to hit north of a 275. He's supplying a double-figure amount of homers. Edouard Julien has not hit for a lot of average, but he's giving you 7+ home runs thus far this season. And you've gotten a lot of guys back at the fold, like Jose Miranda, Carlos Correa, Willie Castro, hitting between about a 262, 280. Trevor Larnach is hitting above a 300 after you had just a doldrum for this lineup when they were dealing with all their injuries. These guys are back in full force, and back in full force is Aaron Judge for the Yankees, up to 11 home runs this season after a miserable start to the season. Here in the month of May, over the last 2.5 or so weeks, he has looked like the Aaron Judge that we all know and love. Over the last 15 days, 5 home runs over the course of his last 45 or so at-bats, giving you north of a 4 on base. This is what we expect out of him. You've had Juan Soto give you north of a 4 on base. And what is so big for the Yankees is that though this is a little bit of a boom or bust lineup, you've got the likes of Anthony Rizzo, Anthony Volpe, Oswaldo Cabrera being able to just consistently move the line. Alex Verdugo as well. These guys are in between about a 250 to 265. So credit where credit is due there. I do think that both of these starters are going to be able to give you a relatively solid start, but both of these lineups are stepping up as well. I do think that the Twins find a way with their bullpen. They have slipped outside the top 10 with regards to their ERA, but Yohan Duran, I think, is going to be restored at that closer spot sooner rather than later. He's been tremendous in the bullpen. Cole Sands has been a little bit wobbly recently after a good start to the season. He's up to a north of a 4 ERA along with Cody Funderburk, who's up to north of a 3 ERA, but Griffin Jackson has been able to give you some good innings, and I do think that the Twins find a way to get it done, as I do think that Ryan gives you just a little bit more than Clark Schmidt. I did set my total at 8.2. I think that this is a classic Clark Schmidt give up 3 runs in 6 innings sort of spot, so looking at the over, and I do like the Twins on the money line up to a -112. Now we have my DK Network right at pick 959, 960 on the betting board. The Boston Red Sox, they play us the Tampa Bay Rays. Zach Little is on the bump for the Rays, and Cooper Criswell goes for Boston. Boston is between a -105 to a -110 favorite, with the Rays, you're finding them between -102 to a -110, so pretty much pick 'em game in FNC total, over and under anywhere between -105 to a -115. Right at pick is going to be on the Red Sox money line. I did set them at a -133. I like what I've seen out of Cooper Criswell this season. Now, is his fielding independent a little bit higher than that 2.10 ERA? Absolutely it is, but he's been very stable, giving up only 1.8 walks, 8.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in all 6 of his pitching appearances this season, as he's been utilized as a long guy at the bullpen once. I think that once or twice they utilized an opener for him as well, but all in all, this guy has been incredible, and Zach Little, I think, is going to be able to give you a good start as well. He has been great for the Rays, 3.02 ERA, but at 2.53 fielding command, giving up to 0.6 home runs to 1.4 walks per 9 innings. He's getting 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Zach Little has been very good. Cooper Criswell has been very good. Where things go awry for the Tampa Bay Rays is the bullpen, as it has been miserable for them thus far this season. They get back Pete Fairbanks after he was all over the place to begin the season, but entering into the day on Wednesday, the Rays 27th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and under the radar, this Boston Red Sox team is number 5 in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA. You've had Brendan Bernardino, Justin Slayton be 2 relatively good long guys. You have seen Chris Martin be a little bit wobbly for this team, but Kenley Jansen in save spots has been pretty much nails this far this season. And on the flip side for the Tampa Bay Rays, Garrett Clevenger, Longshon Armstrong, these guys have been relatively solid, but just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of this team night in, night out. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, this team entered into the night on a Wednesday, averaging about 3.75 runs per game away from home. That ranks 25th in the big leagues, 19th overall in terms of runs per game. But really what is lacking for the Tampa Bay Rays is the firepower in terms of the deep ball. You've been able to have Isaac Paredes do a really good job, giving you a 385 on base, 7+ home runs, and Randy Arozarena's up to 8 home runs, but Arozarena's hitting just a $156. Now you do have guys who are able to find a way on. I was talking about Paredes. You've got Richie Palacios sitting about a 275, Ben Roadfit, Josh Lowe, these guys are hitting about a 300, but for the Boston Red Sox, having Tyler O'Neill in the fold is big. Overall for the season, the Red Sox are averaging about 4.3 runs per game. When O'Neill is in the fold, that's north of 4.4 runs per game. When he's out of the fold, more like 3.8 runs per game. So O'Neill and his 9+ home runs, his on-base percentage of a 375 is big. Rafael Devers has been down a little bit in terms of power with just 5 home runs, but he's doing a great job getting on base, as he, Connor Wong, Weiler Abreu are all giving you at least a 360 in terms of their on base. The biggest thing is some of the young guys at the bottom of the fold, the likes of Pablo Reyes, Sadine Rafaela, David Hamilton. These guys hitting 215 or lower has been rough, but Jaron Duran has been able to do a very solid job, hitting about a 265 at the top. I do think that Cooper Criswell is going to stick it to his old organization of the Tampa Bay Rays, made the Red Sox -133 in this spot, so my right-up pick is going to be on the Red Sox money line, and I do think that you're going to see a little bit of run scoring in this one. I do think that the Red Sox see a little bit of regression with the bullpen, but I think that the Rays still struggle with their bullpen. I think that both of these starters are doing for a little bit of regression. Did sell my total at 8.7. Boston very much a hitter's haven, so I do like the over, but my write-up, that's going to be on the Red Sox money line. We wrap things up with 961, 962 on the betting board. The Houston Astros do play host to the Oakland A's. Joey Estes is on the bump for the A's, and Christian Javier is on the bump for Houston. Houston's between -205 to -220 favorites, anywhere between +180 to +185 is that number on Oakland. 8.5 is the total, or is -115. The under is -105. If you're looking to lay a run and a half with the Astros. You're going to be getting them anywhere between even money to minus 105 on that run line. I was willing to go up to a minus 102. Right now at Circa, I'm seeing a minus 102, so I'm going to be willing to lay a run and a half. I set the money line more around at 206. The A's have been quite good at being able to cover the run line, but do have some question marks with Joey Estes. His first start out, he actually looked quite good. He goes out there, he gives up 1 run over the course of 5 innings, gets 5 strikeouts, and the A's really do have a lot of good young arms in their bullpen. That said, they had to throw Aaron Brooks yesterday. It wasn't a complete disaster for Aaron Brooks, but that said, they did have to utilize more of their bullpen pieces I'm sure that they would have liked. And for the Oakland A's, this has been a team that's been in the top 10 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, but now they're dealing with an injury to Danny Jimenez. So as a result, you're looking to someone like a Tyler Ferguson trying to hold down the fort for the team. You've had the likes of Michael Kelly, Austin Adams, Lucas Erceg give you a sub-3.5 ERA, and Mason Miller has been amazing in the closer's role. Meanwhile, you do have a Houston Astros bullpen that is in the bottom 10 in terms of bullpen ERA. If you look at the fielding independence, though, of both Josh Hader and Ryan Presley, positivity should be coming through. Brian Abreu still has north of a 3.5 ERA, but he's been picking it up a little bit as well. And then for the Houston Astros, the one thing that you don't have concern with is the team hitting at home. They're the number 1 slugging percentage team when they've been in Houston thus far this season. You've got Kyle Tucker, who's been able to give you a double-figure amount of bombs with a 4-runner on base. Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, 7+ home runs apiece with Altuve, give you about a 375 on base. And Jeremy Pena, though he hasn't hit for a lot of power, he's been able to do a nice job, hitting about a 330 with a 375 on base. Joey Lofito, hopefully I said that correctly, he's got relatively similar numbers in a smaller sample size as well. And for the Oakland A's, even though this team is in the top 3 in the big leagues with regards to home runs per game away from home, it hasn't resulted in a lot of runs because these are a whole bunch of solo shots with a bunch of guys that can't move the line. Brent Rooker and Abraham Toro were the only 2 guys in the starting lineup yesterday that entered in the game hitting above a 245. You had the likes of Zach Galoff, J.D. Davis, Shea Langoliers, Brett Harris. These guys hitting a 215 or lower, though I will say for Shea Langoliers, Shea bangs as he and Brent Rooker combined 19 home runs entering in the day yesterday. Esteury Ruiz has great wheels when he's able to get on base. Problem is he's giving you a sub 300 on base as well. And for Christian Javier, he has spent quite a bit of time on the injured list, but when we have seen Christian Javier out there, he's looked a little bit more like the guy of old in terms of just the raw numbers. Now, if you look at the advanced numbers, you can tell that the strikeout numbers, they're down right now. 6.5 strikeouts to 5.5 walks per 9 innings. 4.01 ERA, 5.08 fielding independent. That's a little bit concerning in his last start out coming off the injured list against Detroit. He got just completely shelled. He gave up 7 runs and he only got 4 outs. I do think that he's going to be able to adjust there, and I do think that this is going to be able to help him out a little bit going up against the Oakland A's. I did set my total at 8.1 in this ordeal. I do think that he figures it out against an A's team that has had a very difficult time moving the line on the road, and I do think that Joey Estes gives you a relatively okay start as well, but I do think that the Astros are going to continue to improve with this bullpen, so I do like the under, and I do like the Astros laying a run and a half up to a minus 102, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @Junior_D1. Keep in mind, letters M, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. Big thanks once again to Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets Show, for joining me in the last segment. And I'm with you guys every single day throughout the baseball season on this podcast. And I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.